Christina. So you do have a basic file here, and I can see where you might want to dress it up, make it a little bit easier to read. And what would you like to do? What are some of the things you were thinking you'd like to do with this?
Well, the things that are important about this, I really want to emphasize.
Okay.
So I want it to be easy to read. I want people to know what they're looking at in this data. So the headers up at the top, I really want to do something different with those. And then the totals are very important, both on the right-hand side and also on the end of this. I think that people need to know what our totals are down here as well. Okay. So I would like to dress those up a little bit too.
All right. First of all, just because you scrolled down there, you do remember we have those keyboard shortcuts, and Control N would have taken you to that last cell, and we wouldn't have had to scroll all the way down.
Okay.
And of course, what would take you back to A1?
Control Home.
So why don't you just go on and do Control Home? Now that we're back at the top, you said you'd like your headers to stand out. And you know, when they're typed just the same way as everything else, they kind of blend in with everything.
It does.
So what would you like to do with your headers?
Well, I don't know. I think that the primary way that people are going to receive this is via email. I don't think that they're going to print this out. So with that in mind, I probably want to add maybe some color and maybe, I don't know, make them bigger. I don't know.
We can change the font size. We can change the font. We can make them bold. We can center them in the cell if you like. There's a lot of different things we can do.
Okay.
If you're on your Home tab, you'll notice that you have a second group called the Font group. And this is where all of the fonts and the bolds and the italics and the font size and colors are stored. Anything that will change the characters within your file. So we're right there on cell A1. Why don't we play around a little bit with cell A1 and get what we want first. First of all, you said maybe make it bigger. Now the font that we have right now is Arial. You see that?
I do.
And if you wanted to, we could change that. Maybe you want the header font to be different, and you could click on that drop down there, and you have a list of various fonts. And one of the things that's really neat is as you're scrolling down over those, do you notice that cell A1 is giving you a preview of what that text is going to look like if you choose that particular font?
That's great.
So why don't you pick one that you think you like? Okay, so you've chosen Tahoma. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to a serif font, Times New Roman, and show you the difference. And I've zoomed in here so we can get a really good look at the letters and really see what's going on. So I'm going to come up here to Tahoma, click on the drop down on my font, and choose Times New Roman. And do you notice some differences between the letters here?
Yes, they definitely look different, especially the D.
Okay. Notice how there's two, it's almost like fins sticking out behind it. We call these serifs, or in English we call them tags, but they are little extensions from the letters. And this is really what you probably grew up reading when you were in school, is a serif font like Times New Roman. And they have tags on them. Notice the A has that little bubble at the top, and it has the little tail at the bottom. These are serif fonts, and things like Times New Roman and Courier and so forth are serif fonts, and then Arial and Tahoma are sans serif fonts.
And why does that make a difference on which one I should choose? How should I know which one should choose, whether it's serif or sans serif?
It's really up to you. However, in visual design, they do suggest that if you have one sans serif font, that you don't choose another sans serif font. Just because, let me go back, I'll hit the undo. This one here is Arial. This one's Tahoma. Do you see much difference between them?
Not really.
That's one of the things to keep in mind. Now, for today, it doesn't really matter, but it's something to consider when you're choosing a font, is whether you're wanting a serif or a sans serif and what you already have on the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Okay? All right. So do you want to stay with the Tahoma?
Yes, let's stay with that for now.
Okay. I happen to like Tahoma. It's one of my favorite sans serifs. Now, next to that, you have your font size, and right now it is at 10. That's the default. And let's click on the drop down. And you'll notice that your font size can go all the way up to 72. Now technically, notice once you started moving around in there that the 10 in the font size box highlighted, which means if the number you're looking for isn't there, you could type it in.
Oh, okay.
So you could do that, or you could just choose an item in the list, and as you notice as you were scrolling up and down, it automatically gives you the preview just like it did with the fonts. 72 points, by the way, is about 1 inch in height in regular print.
Okay.
So that gives you an idea of what point means when you're looking at font size.
I think I just wanted a little bit larger, so maybe 11.
How about let's go up about 12 or 14. Usually you want to see a little bit more difference.
Okay.
So 12 probably is plenty. Let's
right.
just go there. And just so you can see, just to the right of that, you have two capital A's. One of them's larger, one of them's smaller, and if you point to them, the screen tip tells you one increases font size, one decreases font size. So rather than clicking on the drop down, you can just go click, click, click in one direction or the other, and it will jump up certain increments in your font size. In fact, why don't you click up once and down once just to see. See, there it went to 14, and then it brings you back down to 12.
Okay.
Okay. Now we have below the font size, bold, italics, and underline. In a spreadsheet, do you think you're going to use underline very much?
No, probably not. I probably, maybe just when I'm adding numbers or something, I would do that.
And we actually have a borders feature that might actually work better for you there.
Okay.
So, but we could bold. A lot of times headings are bolded, so why don't we click on bold? And this works just like all the other programs you've probably ever dealt with. They toggle on or off. If they're on and you click on the cell's highlighted. If you wanted to make it italics, you could.
Okay.
And of course, one of the things that when you're working with a sans serif font, italics looks a little bit different. If you're working with a serif font, italics gets a little bit more of that script look to it.
Okay.
And we're not going to worry about the underline right now, but let's just click on the drop down so you can see that it has a drop down and gives you the option for an underline or a double underline.
Okay, that's
which is good for when you're adding numbers and you want to put it right below the last number. As you're moving right on across, you have a bucket. Well, we're going to skip over the borders right now. You have a bucket. This puts color in your spreadsheet. Now, the next button does too, but there's a difference between them. Can you see what the difference is by pointing to them?
Well, this one I'm not sure, but this one, it seems like since there's a letter in there that maybe I would be changing the letters.
Okay.
This one, I don't know, maybe the background?
Yeah. Why don't you now, before you click on the drop down, notice there's a yellow bar underneath the bucket. That tells us that if you were just to click the button, you get a yellow background. But if you wanted to choose colors, you can click on the drop down.
Okay.
And do that, and let's choose maybe one of the lighter colors. There you go. Notice under the bucket now the color bar reflects the color you just selected, so it's remembering the last one.
Okay, great.
And then, do you want to change your font color?
Let's look at it. Maybe a dark green. These are our company colors.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now, one of the things you did that is really good is you have contrast. You have a dark text and a light background. You know, now how many times I've seen red text in a black background and black text in a red background, and they're both dark. Make sure that one is light and one is dark to get that contrast so you can read it.
Okay, that sounds good.